I can make it. This is segment 1 for the record, the introductory announcement. Today is Tuesday, November 4th, 2014, and this is the beginning of an interview with John Allen Gooding at his home at Eagle Crest Terrace, 2925 Lincoln Drive, Roseville, Minnesota. Mr. Gooding is 92 years old, having been born on March 11th, 1922. My name is Janice Ray Hallman, and I'll be the interviewer. I am a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution of the Nathan Hale chapter here in St. Paul, Minnesota. And John will start with segment 1, which is, would you state for the recording what war and branch of service you served in, your rank, and where did you serve? So first of all, what war and branch of service?
World War II. And my final assignment was as first lieutenant. I was exec officer of Company D of the 50th MP Battalion in Manila, PI.
Okay, so you served in the Philippines then.
Right.
Okay. And we're going to, that's just the segment 1, and so we're going to go to segment 2, which is called Jogging Memory. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I was in the enlisted corps of the ROTC program at the University of Nebraska.
And so then you enlisted from there?
That was required in order to stay in the 3-year program that I was in field artillery in the ROTC.
And so you were living then at the time in Nebraska?
Lincoln, Nebraska.
Okay. And why did you join the service?
I was in the ROTC program for 3 years. And that was because all of us had to be in ROTC, but I chose to be in advanced ROTC, so I had 1 year of basic ROTC, which everybody was required to do. All males were required to do. The other 2 were voluntary situations.
Okay. And why did you pick the service branch that you joined?
That was the service branch that was at the university.
Okay. And do you recall your first days in the service?
So what happened was on the university campus in my 3rd year of ROTC, they had a unit of Air Corps enlisted men, and we as advanced ROTC officers wore officer uniforms, but we were not officers. And it caused a lot of discord because the Air Corps people didn't know who to salute. And so the colonel in charge of the ROTC program decided he would activate the ROTC students, and we were moved into a new library that had no books because it was just completed for the war and served as a barracks.
Wow.
And so we were in with the Air Corps in that building.
Okay.
And then as a group we were sent to can't think of the name.
Well, did you go to some kind of boot camp or training?
Well, I'm trying to think of the name of the Fort Leavenworth.
Okay. So in Kansas, that's in
That's-
Kansas, right?
That's where we were actually taken into the Army,
Okay.
and then we were sent to Camp Roberts to take basic training, which was essentially what we had learned in the first 3 years of ROTC.
Okay, so what did you do in the basic training camp? I mean, what did they have you doing?
That was making sure that we knew that we were artillerymen.
Okay. Do you remember your instructors that you had?
Not a lot. I don't think that any of them were, or any person stands out. They were all competent people.
Okay.
At the end of basic training, I decided I would like to transfer to the Air Corps, which I did, and was an Air Cadet, and in a college training unit at Cedar City, Utah. And while there, a telegram arrived from Arnold, which sent all people back to ground units who had been in ground units previous to transferring to the Air Corps.
So that was you?
That was 24,000 cadets were washed out.
Wow. That had to be a record.
And they had to have some place to send us, so they sent a group of us to the 13th Armored Division at Camp Bowie, Texas. And while I was there, one day I was marching with the platoon, and the lieutenant asked me, do you think you're officer material? And I said, yes, sir, of course. And I was ordered to go to Fort Benning, Georgia, to be in the infantry school. And the reason that I'd been shipped around, they didn't know where I was. And I'd signed a contract while at the University of Nebraska to be in the ROTC program, and they couldn't find me because I'd been shipped around to so many different units. So I went through the training at Fort Benning and became a second lieutenant.
Okay. Now, John, we're going to move to segment 3, which is your experiences during the war. And we know that you served in World War II. Where exactly did you go after your training?
After becoming a second lieutenant, I was sent to Paris, Texas, Camp Bowie, to train recruits. And I was there for 3 months, and I was home on leave for my overseas leave of 10 days, and when VJ Day occurred.
Okay.
So the war was over before I had any foreign assignment.
Okay.
And I went to Manila and became a first lieutenant, and I was exec officer of Company D of the 50th Military Police Battalion, and served there until I was relieved of duty because of, this is after the war, because of the death of my oldest brother in the service. And I knew that this was going to happen because our exec officer also had a death in his family due to war. And he walked the orders through the headquarters, and we were on a ship back to the United States.
Okay. So you were in Manila, then when your brother died, you went back to the States and came to your family.
My brother had been killed on April 10th, 1943.
Okay. So that was a very memorable experience. That's one of the questions. This has got to be one of your most memorable experiences of your time during the war. Were there casualties in your unit? There weren't then, because of the fact that the war was over there. Do you have other memorable experiences that you would like to talk about during this time that you had either in Manila or in the States?
I think that being a 23-year-old man, there was a lot of responsibility on our shoulders in terms of the safety of military personnel in Manila. And
You mentioned what you were in charge of. Would you describe that you were talking about before? What you oversaw during that time?
every third day, I was 8 hours as the battalion officer of the day. During that time, this is every third day, I was directly responsible for all military behavior and all military traffic in an area of nearly 10 square miles of Manila. As a 23-year-old, I felt a lot of responsibility.
That is a big responsibility. John, we're going to go to segment 4, and this is about life in the service or at the front. And how did you stay in touch with your family during this time?
By writing letters every day.
Okay. And what was the food like?
In the Philippines, it was not desirable.
And did you have plenty of supplies?
Yes, we were well supplied.
Okay. And was there a lot of pressure or stress at that time after the war was over?
My job was pretty stressful, as being when I was as officer of the day for the battalion.
Mm-hmm.
And the other times I was on the road in our own company area.
Okay, and then was there something special that you did for good luck?
Not that I know.
And one of the questions that they like to know is, how did people entertain themselves, and were there people that came to entertain during that time after the war was complete?
We had a very good series of programs in the destroyed auditorium we made out of a basketball court,
Okay.
and it was very fine entertainment.
And these were people that were coming from the States?
No, it was mainly native.
Okay, okay. And then what did you do when you were on leave?
Went home.
Just went home? Because I thought you mentioned too that you were in Manila, you know, I saw that pictures that you had of, you know, the newspaper and all of that. There were places to go there. So, do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events that you remember?
No, I don't.
Okay. And were there some pranks that you and others would pull on each other over there?
Is this running? So
Yeah, it's just the fan. That's right.
no, I can't think of any.
And then I know that you have lots of photographs, and what we're going to do is you said that I could take your books, and I will copy some of those, and so we'll include that with your file. What did you think of officers and your fellow soldiers in general?
I was proud to be serving, and in general, all of the personnel that I came in contact with were reputable and worthy people.
Mm-hmm. And did you keep a personal diary?
No, my personal diary went home and a letter every day.
Okay. And then, but you had your personal pictures you kept drawing all during this time.
Yeah, they went in the letters too.
Okay. All right, John, we're on segment 5, and this is after the service. And do you recall the day that your service ended?
My service ended in May, but I was home on leave.
Okay. So you were in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yes.
And what did you do in the days and the weeks afterward when your service ended?
Immediately registered at the University of Nebraska
Okay.
to complete my BS degree.
Okay, and you were going to get your BS degree in?
Agronomy.
Okay. And so you went back to school, and how long did that take you then to get that completed?
1 year.
Okay. Were you supported by the GI Bill?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It was the finest thing that could have happened. And the last thing that the government paid for through the GI Bill was the typing of my PhD thesis.
Wow. So you didn't just get your bachelor's, you got your master's and your PhD. That's wonderful. And then how long did it take you to get your PhD? Like what, was it another 4 years or so?
I was 4 years at Kansas State, but I was on the faculty there as an instructor. So my research was distributed over about 3 years.
Okay.
And then Washington State, the same thing, where I got my PhD. It's about 4 years.
Okay.
But both places I was a faculty member.
So you were working on your PhD
Yeah.
while you were teaching. Okay.
And when I was nearly finished with my PhD, my father decided he would like to join a group in Turkey for 2 years that was developing a new institution at Erzurum, Turkey. And that's when the department head, who knew me from the day of my birth, called me and said, "How would you like to take your dad's job?"
Wow.
And I was doing that then for 5 years, and then came to Minnesota in administration.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you did have some close friendships while in the service. Did you continue any of those relationships afterwards?
Yes, I've got letters from those two guys that were in that photograph.
Okay.
Got letters, and we exchanged. But they were the only two, and I never did get to see either one of them.
Okay, so just through letters all those years. So how long did that last, the letter writing and going back
It was
and forth?
a rather brief situation. My granddaughter decided I should see if those two guys were still alive.
Okay.
One of them was a president of a refrigeration company in New Jersey, and the other one was a designer of Ford automobiles in Detroit.
Wow. So they were well employed.
And
And did you join a veterans organization at all after you came back?
no,
Okay. Okay, we're going to segment 6, and this is called Later Years and Closing. And what did you do? What did you go on to do as a career after the war? Did you always stayed in then teaching and research? Were you doing research too?
18 years of administration here and 10 years back in the department.
Okay. So you were first at the university. Well, you were University of Washington too, right? So you were
Washington
there,
State.
Washington State, and then University of Minnesota.
I got my BS degree at Nebraska, then master's at Kansas State, PhD at Washington State.
And then went and then stayed in teaching until you retired.
Yes,
Okay. So how many years actually were you in the university setting?
from 1940 to 1998.
Wow. That's a lot of years. John, did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
Yes, it did.
In what way?
After getting out of the service, I became a battery commander in the reserve.
Okay.
And I did that until I went to Washington State, and there was no way that I could continue because there was no unit
Okay.
to be in.
And then you said you weren't ever in a veterans organization. Did you ever attend any reunions?
No.
Okay. How did your service and experiences affect your life?
Well, I think they made me grow up.
Right. And is there anything that you would like to add that we did not cover in this interview?
I can't think of anything.
Okay. There was one thing that you had mentioned before about when you were in the service that you had some kind of I don't know, it was health issue, and this doctor helped you. And I don't think that we've written that down anyplace, but you want to talk a little bit about that, how you went through that, and how you felt he helped you to make it.
Well, was in the hospital, I think mainly from the riding in the rough roads in the Jeep, caused me to have kidney problems.
Okay.
And
And this was in Manila. This was in the Philippines.
right.
Okay.
And on my discharge it said ill-defined condition of the GU tract.
Okay.
They never did find out what the problem was,
Okay.
but I think it was 8 hours a day riding in a Jeep with a hard seat in it.
Right. So this doctor happened to be in the Philippines at the time?
He was at that hospital, and he's a John Hopkins graduate
Okay.
in urology. So I had the very best,
Would you like a little more
Doctor.
coffee?
No, thank you.
the very best doctor I could have had.
Mhm.
And they just didn't come up with anything in 2 weeks of examination.
So then, but just by his help and
Yeah.
resting, you were able to get over that.
Yeah.
That's good. Because you were fortunate to have that urologist around at that time.
We certainly were.
Okay, that's the end of the questions from the interview, and I just want to thank you for sharing your recollections and all the information that you have that you're sharing with us. Thank you so much for your time.
And one other thing that I might tell you,
Okay.
and that is when I was in Manila, the congressman from our district lost his grandson with bulbar polio, and he wrote to me and asked me to investigate what happened, and what kind of help he had, and it was the same hospital that I had been in.
Okay.
And they opened all of the records for me, and I reported that back to him.
Okay.
And that's when I learned that there was a polio epidemic, and the Army was keeping it quiet.
Okay, so this was a person that was in the Army that got polio, and he died from it?
Yes.
Okay. So that I bet that is not, I did not know that either.
Well, it was pretty shocking to me
Mm-hmm.
that was going on. I
Yeah.
didn't even know him. Had not known anybody who had come down with it until this happened.
Wow.
But that was one of the, and that was about the time that our daughter was born, and
Okay.
all of this was going on.
Yeah.
Not knowing directly what was happening other than by mail.
Yes.
Harriet wrote very away.
Okay. Well, listen, thanks. Thanks very much for your time. Appreciate
When I
it.
got home, let's see, no. When I went over, we were on the ship for a long time. And every day I'd written a letter, and then Harriet got 29 letters one day.
She was busy for a while, huh?
And she was working at a radio station at the time.
Okay.
And her boss said, there's no use of her working anymore today.
You just go home and read all of your letters. That's amazing. Well, now has she kept those letters all these years?
Well, they are somewhere, but
Okay.
that all of these drawings came out of those letters.
Okay, so you pulled the drawings out, but the letters still exist. Well, that's, that's quite a record that you
Yeah.
have of your time over there, I'm sure, of all the things.
Right.
But you couldn't talk about where you were or what you were doing or all that, or could you?
Oh, there was no problem
Yeah.
after the war.
After the war was over?
DJ Day I was on my overseas leave and was home in Lincoln.
That had to be a great feeling. I'm sure there was big celebration in Lincoln then.
I thought maybe I wouldn't have to go.
Yeah, but you did anyway, right?
Right.
Well, there's the occupation time,
Yeah.
right, and that's what you were really a part of.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end us here. Let's see, will it end? Okay.